Alrighty, it's a little bit after 4, so I think move this mic up a little bit more. There we go. I think we're ready to go ahead and get underway. So good afternoon, everybody. Thank you all so much for being here on this kind of dreary, blustery Ithaca afternoon. But as I say that, that's like pretty normal for Ithaca. So thank you all for being here regardless. My name is Malcolm Alexander. I'm a senior journalism student here at IC. I'm also the host of the Career Center podcast, the Career Corner podcast, which is run by the Center for Career Exploration and Development here on campus. Before we get into the event, some of you may have noticed that there are some cameras in the room today. That is because today's event is being filmed by a fantastic team from Park Productions. So thank you so much to Park Productions for being here and filming audio and video for us. And that's awesome because if there's any insights from today's discussion that you'd like to look back on, both the audio and video from today's conversation will be posted to the Career Center, the Center for Career Exploration and Development's YouTube channel and the Spotify account for the Career Corner podcast. So if you would like to listen back to anything that any of our lovely panelists say this afternoon, you'll be able to find it there. I'd like to say a little bit about sort of how the order of things are going to go this afternoon. So for the first 45 minutes of this hour, I will be asking some questions to our lovely panelists, and then we're going to open the floor up to you guys. If there's any questions that arise over the course of those 40 minutes, please sit on those, and then I will be coming around with this mic so you can ask those and get those out to our awesome alumni. But then afterwards at 5, we're all going to rise and cross that hallway to go to the Klingenstein Lounge for the networking aspect of today's event. There'll be some refreshments, some snacks, some drinks. It'll be a very chill, casual environment. So I know I see some students in the audience, some alumni in the audience. It'll be a great place to get connected. And if there's any questions that you don't get to ask our panelists, you can, of course, feel free to ask them there. Before I let our panelists introduce themselves, I would like to tell you all a little bit about who Susan DiPace was and why we're here, considering this is the Susan DiPace Alumni Networking event. Susan DiPace graduated from Ithaca College in 1974 with a degree in history. During her time as a student, she was a member of the Student Activities Board, the History Club, and the President's Host Committee. After graduating, Susan earned a master's degree in counseling from Fairfield University while simultaneously substitute teaching in her hometown of Rye, New York. Susan then moved to New York City and began a career as an operations manager for a temporary work agency before shifting to become the senior manager of human resources at Nortel Networks, a position she held for the remainder of her life. Susan was an incredibly passionate member of the Ithaca College community long past her time as a student, as she frequently traveled back to campus to speak in business classes and mentor students through the Office of Career Services. She was a firm believer in the idea that your postgraduate career path can be nonlinear, exploratory, and exciting. And that's an idea that I think our 3 panelists here tonight exemplify perfectly. So without further ado, I said that we should hear from them. So Nikki, I think we'll start with you. You're in the hot seat right now. If you could start by telling us your name and just a little bit about your current job.
Cool. Hey, everybody. My name is Nikki Ray-Israelsohn. I am the director of Bike Walk Tompkins, which is a local to Ithaca nonprofit that focuses on bicycle education and advocacy. We do many, many things about town. We have a community bike shop. We host open streets events where we close the streets down from cars and we open them up for people. And it's just our goal to make sure that folks are able to walk and bike and roll in our community safely and with dignity. Did you have another question? I graduated from Ithaca College in 2015 from the School of Music. Yep.
Yeah, graduation year, and if you'd like to say maybe your majors and minors, that'd be great too.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dan Wenger. I am a board-certified music therapist and a creative arts therapist. I practice the master's level, and there is a difference in music therapy between bachelor's and master's levels practice. Happy to talk about that another time. My practice right now is in Rockport, Maine, on the coast of Maine. I do individual sessions, group sessions. I consult with organizations, parents, healthcare professionals in many different ways. I do also have to do fundraising, things like that. So I co-write grants with organizations to secure funding for more programming as a music therapist. and I do things like this where I talk about music therapy in front of people. Always happy to talk more about that at other events. I think today I'm going to focus on how I made a non-traditional career path happen. Yeah, it's great to be here. Oh, and I graduated in 2017 as a Bachelor of the Arts in Music with a minor in Environmental Studies. So I spent a lot of time with the Environmental Studies folks, too. Cheers.
Hello, friends. I'm Casey Carroll. I graduated in '07, so I'm the elder on this panel here. And I graduated with a BA in writing and a minor in photography. I currently own and operate 2 businesses. About 11 years ago, I started a business and brand development firm, basically advancing female entrepreneurship and equity-centered initiatives. We've launched about 500 companies, and over the last 11 years, we'll have about 25 women and gender nonconforming folks on our team. And then I also, a couple years ago, was crazy enough to start a restaurant with my husband. So I also own and manage a farm-to-table restaurant outside of Albany, New York, called Kurai Kitchen. My husband is the chef, and then I run the restaurant. I'm a huge advocate, actually, for nonlinear career paths. That's like when I always say, like, it'll make sense later. So that's been my entire journey, and I don't plan on stopping here. So I'm excited for the conversation.
Awesome. I love that it'll make sense later line. Like, that's what a great little nugget already. Man, wow. To start us off, we've got a pretty wide range of sort of fields of studies that you guys all came from, and now very different positions that you all work in currently. Could you tell me a little bit about how what you studied at IC differs from what you do right now, and how there's maybe some skills that were relatable or could be transferred?
I was thinking about this question on the way up here on the TCAT. Shout out to public transportation. Just a little nugget. When I finished at IC, I used my music education degree and taught middle schoolers in Brooklyn, New York. And now I deal with politicians and common council members, and it's not dissimilar from a room full of middle schoolers. There's a lot of personalities. There's a lot of people wanting to be heard, and there's a lot of listening that I do. And I take that from my time here learning how to be a musician and being an educator.
I don't know how I can top calling politicians children. That was fantastic. I think my time at Ithaca, that's a tough one for me to answer because I was studying a lot of music and I'm still in a musical profession. I think the idea of studying music as a performer prepared me to study the opposite, which is preparing to learn, or learning how to use music in a way that really connects with people in really meaningful ways. I had spent such a long time learning how to perform and get up there, put on the persona of a performer, play my heart out, right? Because that's what the people want. Whereas in the situation I'm in now, I really have to be mindful of what I'm bringing to the people I'm working with. So that kind of shift started at the end of my time here at Ithaca. I'm not going to say that that doesn't serve me. There are certainly times where I also have to show up and perform. That's a tough question for me to answer, though. I'll say that.
Well, there's been direct application of using writing in my career as I've written in communications agencies. I've done my own poetry. I mean, I've used it in a variety of ways. But then, I mean, really, to me, everything is story. That's actually why I wanted to do writing, because I just wanted to study everything possible and fit it all into writing. So then I had this ability to storytell, to deep listen, to understand how to articulate a message, and just a deep appreciation for narrative and story and its transformative power. So I never found it limited to an industry or a field of study. It was really okay, now that I have some skill and a deep caring for story. How can I use it in a transformative way in my career and in the world? So to me, then it just became, I could do anything with it, basically, which is oftentimes when I talk about business as well, I see business as just a story. So my companies, they're just an ongoing story that I'm learning how to tell literally, and then also in how the building blocks of them go. So it's conceptual and abstract, and then there was also some literal, way that skill was applied and still is applied in the companies. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So you all sort of mentioned you get some technical skills sometimes, but a lot of times it's more about sort of learning broad framework ideas of how things work. I mean, how politicians work, Dan, go ahead.
I think learning how to improvise within all that and taking everything that we've learned. I mean, I was kind of stumbling over my words there, but honestly, everything that I've learned always comes out at some moment when I need it. That's really how I feel about a lot of the experiences here at IC. We're I imagine expert improvisers up here, given the backgrounds that we have and the things that I imagine you, Casey, and you, Nikki, are confronting every day. We have to just be able to tap into our skills when we need to.
Absolutely, yeah. That kind of brings me to my next question. I'm interested to know what sort of resources, experiences, opportunities you had either in college or after college that you feel really shaped sort of who you are either as a person or as your career path is today. Go for it.
There was one class that I took here that totally changed my life. It was called Music as Medicine. I don't think it exists anymore. The professor who was leading that charge, I think, retired. The premise of the class was we would learn how to use music as a medicine. So the students in that class visited Cayuga Ridge Nursing Facility, which I still love and is still there. And every week in partnerships, we would go and we'd play with the residents, play for the residents, learn their favorite songs, learn their stories, and connect with them, bring them something that could support their quality of life while they were there in Cayuga Ridge. I met a patient who was experiencing agoraphobia. They would not leave their room, and over a few weeks, got to learn their favorite songs. I showed up with my good friend Tristan Jarvis, who is the bass instructor here now. Totally blows my mind to see him in an office. And we made our way up the elevator. He's got an upright bass. I'm holding onto my trombone. And we get accosted by a bunch of nursing home residents. They're like, "Oh, what's that? Whippersnapper," or whatever they would say. And they made us play a song for them. So we get stuck in the hallway playing Buffalo Gals and trying desperately to make it to this resident who's agoraphobic and, I want to go make that appointment that I promised her. But we're stuck. We're singing Buffalo Gals, and I'm starting to get frustrated. All of a sudden, the woman who we were trying to see, who hadn't left her room in months, had asked the nursing staff to wheel her out of her room to come see us. To come see us play and to come hear the music. She had heard it, and she was motivated enough to make that choice. In that moment, everything really changed for me. I knew what this woman was going through. I wasn't even thinking about, I was trying to get to her. I didn't know she was trying to get to us. And just thinking about if I had done what I thought was right, that wouldn't have happened. That experience really got me thinking about how music can be used to motivate people, to connect with people, to bring them experiences that they need in ways that are just wildly creative. There's so many different ways that we can interact with music. And I am so grateful to Music as Medicine at Ithaca College for making that experience happen. That would not have happened without that course. So,
Yeah, you really were making me think some of the best things happened when we slow down a little bit. We're not we get really stuck in rushing around to our next appointment, our next class. But you stayed in the moment and trying to get out of the moment. Yeah. And when I was at IC, part of the education degree, we had to do ed psych, and my professor was Dr. Nia Nunn, who is an absolute legend here on campus, but also for the Ithaca community. And she really like instilled, well, first off, she gave us opportunities to get down the hill, which we don't get a lot. So she got us down the hill at Beverly J. Martin Elementary School, and she took time for us to get to actually know us as students and as young professionals. And she taught me to like really get down to like someone's level, like especially like the littlest person in the room, like the pre-K-er, like get down on your knee and like really connect with this individual. And I just like hold that with me forever because my career has always been meeting people where they're at. So I feel thankful for Dr. Nia. Yeah.
I'm going to keep on the Professor Love train here a little bit myself. Actually, coming back this weekend, I hadn't been back in many years because I lived out west for a long time. And I was like flooded by all these professors that I had, and many of them have retired now. But Tom Kerr comes to mind as somebody who retired a few years ago, but was really transformative for me. And I think it speaks to kind of the resource I've taken out of it, which is that it's such a privilege and a rarity for somebody to care about you as a whole person. And writing was such an intimate program where it was vulnerable, you were sharing personal stories, you know, they were really getting to understand you. And Tom and Barbara Adams and many of my other professors, they really like cared about nurturing my whole self here. And I don't mean to be trying to like just say that. It was like really true. They actually cared, like, how are you doing? They were getting little glimpses in on me. They were checking in on me. They realized that for me, I drew more strength if I could connect to the place and get off campus and go into nature. So they advocated and encouraged that with everything I did. And it was this understanding of like civic engagement, personal development, spiritual development, and how all of that would then inform like me having a better essay or whatever it became in the end product. But there was a real attention to the person and the process. And like even just, I wrote Tom, I was like, I'm coming to Ithaca. Are you still there? And like in 5 minutes, he wrote me back and was just like, immediately we're back in that connection after, 18 years I haven't been back up in here. So it was pretty amazing to just know that that like pulse and connection is still so available. And I think that's something I take out of it. And then I just want to give one more shout out for the land of Ithaca, because it is so, I think it's an understated resource that comes into the undercurrent of the education here, but just like walking around again and being back in the gorges and experiencing the way nature's woven into this landscape, it's so special and was such a resource when I was here.
Absolutely. I love that you all mentioned in some capacity that an experience that was really impactful to you involved connecting with people, connecting with the community, connecting with a professor, really getting to sort of experience impact face to face. And I think that that's just wonderful because, yeah, those are the experiences that really will sort of can make things click for you all of a sudden and can change you completely. Dan, you sort of spoke about this already a little bit, about sort of switching from performer to more educator within music, but I'd be curious to hear from all of you about if there was any moment or what that moment was where you sort of felt your vision of what you wanted to be change. So maybe you came into college thinking, I'm going to be this, and then you exit college thinking, I'm actually going to be this. What was sort of the catalyst, I guess, for that sometimes?
I mean, I never knew what I was going to be. So, and so that was easy. That never really changed. But there was this moment I had moved to San Francisco. It felt like everybody after school kind of like either moved to New York and took the big job and knew kind of their path. And I was like, I moved to Colorado and kind of like was trying to figure it out and put all my pieces together. And then out in San Francisco, I took a job at a pretty large global communications agency, which was like not my spot. It was like I was like the black sheep in the agency. But it was perfect for me because they asked me for like a company-wide, I don't know, promotional story about me of like, what do you want to do? And I think they wanted me to speak about what I wanted to do in their agency, but I was like, oh, I want to own a business and I want to transform the marketplace. And in the interview, I was like, oh, that's what I want to do. And it's not, I'm going to have to leave here pretty soon, kind of thing. But it just like crystallized and made so much sense. And then I went on like a 2-year, I call it my year of possible selves, but I basically explored all the things that I had been feeling were deeper potentials for me to decide where is all of this needing to kind of like come in to shape me to be able to build these businesses that I think I want to be leading forward. So that's kind of the journey I went on afterwards, was just a full permission to myself to say, I have no idea where it's going to go or how it's all coming together, but I know I need to do all of this and it'll come clear after. And it was in that agency interview that it all just kind of came together. And within 2 years, I had quit the agency and I'd started my first business, and we were growing the team, and it was all kind of happening pretty quickly after that.
I know I did speak a little bit about like, ooh, I'm going to go do this music therapy thing now. I had this awesome experience at this nursing facility. But I do also really want to say that, I had this dream of starting a music therapy private practice 4 years ago, and I thought it was going to take 4 years, and I got it done a lot quicker. And I kind of sat, I still do. I sit with my partner at home, and I'm like, all right, I did this thing, and this is going really well. I still have, like, other dreams now. And I think that's honestly a beautiful and frustrating opportunity to find yourself unsatisfied, but also realizing that, oh, there's more creativity in me that I want to put out there at the same time. And I imagine, we get to those places in our work, I certainly do, where, all right, I'm doing this. This is going really well. This is beautiful. I feel amazing about this. There's still more need out there. There's still problems out there that need to be solved. And I don't know, I'm an empath. That's how I run my business, based on the problems that I see around me and based on the things that I want to support. There's a lot of problems out there, and we're all trying to work on that. I think if we're constantly asking those questions, we're constantly looking to evolve in ways that really mean a lot to the people around us.
You're like the perfect springboard for me. You always say something like, oh, yeah. Yeah. I don't think that my vision of my career has necessarily changed. I've always been a people person. I've always loved being a part of a community and giving back to the community. And I felt as though I was doing that as a music educator, and I feel like I'm doing that now with the nonprofit. But the shift for me from where I was going linearly, so I, music ed, moved to New York City, got the job, checked all the boxes, was teaching, and then the next thing was, okay, I have to get my master's in order to keep my license. And that was the sort of fork in the road, like, okay, do I want to study music education in my master's? This is the opportunity to really like open up my whole world. And I decided to go with a master's in arts and culture management, which is essentially a nonprofit business degree, because I felt that there was like creativity inside of me that was wanting to come out, but not necessarily within the music classroom. And I wanted to be in more cultural institutions, like a museum or working for Met Opera or something like that. And so I went to Pratt Institute to get that master's, and while I was studying, they were constantly asking questions about, obviously, like, what's your thesis going to be? Like, okay, I have to check this next box. And I decided that I wanted to go into that problem-solving mode. What was the thing that was keeping my students when I was teaching from the classroom? Or what is keeping people from these cultural institutions that are creating like beautiful programming, beautiful exhibitions, and I found that it was transportation was an issue for many, and so I thought that's where I want to go next, and it's incredibly nerdy and to be thinking about transportation networks, but also kind of beautiful. I'll get into it probably a little bit later, but that was my transition into this career.
Awesome. Yeah. So it sounds like you all had, sort of moments of reflection, whether that be after you've sort of already broken into the working field or before, and sort of realized, maybe there's more I could do. Maybe there's something else out there that I could be giving my energy and my time to a little bit more. And I think that's great. And on that line, if any of you have any sort of advice to students out there who are maybe majoring in something or interested in something right now and are maybe feeling like, this isn't quite what I want to do, or they're starting to find more interest in another field, do you have any sort of advice on making that move, making that switch?
Yes. I moved to Maine 4 years ago to start this private practice that I'm running now. And at the time, I also was contemplating, I'm here in a new place. I love what I do, but I also don't mind the idea of trying other things. And that was terrifying for me. Just the idea of maybe I could do something else. Maybe there's something else that, I don't know, might be interesting, might check my boxes, get me paid, make a difference. And I ended up going right back to what I wanted to do and figuring out my profession, my practice, and I'm grateful for that. But I think along the way, just opening up my mind to those possibilities, what else could I wear to work? A suit? I don't know. Do I want to think about working on a boat like everybody else here in Maine? There's a lot of people that work on boats in Maine, believe it or not. They like lobster. And I thought about that. And I think just the practice of putting yourself in a position that you're not comfortable in, even if it's mentally, it's going to help you be able to be more imaginative about your role, your purpose, and the ways that you can support others. I didn't end up doing anything with that in this physical reality, but it was certainly a good place for me to go mentally so that I could just open my mind up to different ways of being, different ways of solving problems.
Again, perfect springboard. Back to transportation, folks. One of the catalysts for me getting into transportation to begin with is that I had a hobby of bicycling. And that was how I was getting around New York City. And then, it went from, okay, me and my friends are gonna have some drinks and go to Coney Island and see a parade or whatever on our bikes. It then became, oh, I'm going to work now on my bike. Oh, I'm going to grad school on my bike. So just remembering that a job is a job and your career is a job, but you're also just so much more than what you're doing for those 8 hours every day. You're a culmination of hobbies and interests. And my suggestion, looking back at myself here at IC, is to really lean into the hobbies. And to be, it's so corny, but actually be curious, go do something that you've truly never done before. I'm still pushing myself to do that now. And even recently, I've made it back to music through radio, which I never thought I would be into. And so I'm thinking to myself, what would I tell little Nikki back in 2011? Do college radio. Because it's just another way to access music and to share your passion. And so I'm doing radio in Ithaca, and it's really fun. Oh man, I'm focusing on physical media. So I'm playing vinyl, I'm playing tapes, I'm playing CDs, and connecting the through lines. It's really fun. So just don't forget that you can have hobbies, and it has to have. Don't monetize it. Just have a good time.
I have so many pieces of advice I feel like I would share about this. But one is that one feels like the most important is that if you can learn to like cultivate trust in your own self-knowing, or that like intuition that's like, maybe this isn't the thing, and get more comfortable with the unknown, whatever happens, you're going to be a better leader. And I think that I work in a coaching capacity with a lot of entrepreneurs, and I think that's one of the things we always talk about is like, where are you at with your relationship with your own knowing? Because if there's things in the way, internalized beliefs, norms, a number of different things that get in the way of our relationship with ourselves, that's going to impact where and how we see our past being able to unfold. So like starting with that is to just like getting curious and like even asking yourself that question of really, where is your relationship with trusting yourself and your own knowing? And then there's also like, this sounds really simple, but there's this really easy shoulds exercise that I do with a lot of clients, but we'll just like brain dump. We do it in a number of different formats, but one way is like take 5 minutes and just write all the shoulds that are in your way of making that decision. So like, I shouldn't change, or I should do journalism because it's more valuable than writing, whatever. Put all your shoulds out there. There's a lot of them. It won't end. There will be more. Trust me. It can be an ongoing list. But I always say there's so much wisdom in what comes out of the shoulds, because there are certain things that are ready to be composted or not serving you. And then there are other things that are showing you actually your path. So there's so many good nuggets to take out of a simple exercise like that. So those are two like really practical things. And then the third one, the last one, would just be when I started my coaching practice, I started this practice, and Nikki and Dan are talking about this as well, of it's called questions to hold. But so many of us are motivated by action steps, and that felt really disingenuous to me in my coaching. And so I wanted to motivate people through inquiry and being with questions. So one of the big questions, you know, it's like one of them could be in some of that of like, am I happy? They can be the simplest question if you're trying to figure out if you want to pivot, or if you're wanting to move, or if something's not landing for you. You can just ask some really simple questions like, am I happy? And instead of trying to answer it with a yes or no, just keep asking yourself that, and use the like practice of asking the question and listening for responses as the direction forward versus the answer. So I think those are all ways to just be with the kind of like big unknown that we all have to learn how to skill up in being with in the world. And the more we can hold it, I think the more we'll keep finding our way forward. So
I just want to say too, piggybacking off of what you're saying here, Casey, you just said the word should, and that threw me right into a process that I have with a client who has taught me a lot. And I want to say, I think if you're trying to serve people, especially, you should really be open to learning from those people. They're going to teach you what exactly they want, especially if you give them the time and the space and the curiosity. I have a client who comes to me all the time, and she says this: don't should all over yourself. Learn what you're holding on to. I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah, no, that's all great. I love, hearing a lot of stuff about stay curious, touch in with yourself, don't get too lost in the sauce, the stress of the industry. And keep your hobbies up, have fun, and you never know where they could take you. Nikki, you kind of already spoke to this in your last answer, but I'd love to hear from all of you. If you had the opportunity to go back in time and speak to yourself when you were here at IC, what is one piece of advice that you would give to yourself? And this doesn't have to be, hyper specific. This can be sort of broad.
well, I'll start because I led with it, I guess, which is just that like it'll make sense later. I think I took some time being like, oh no, am I doing enough? Is this whatever? I had judgments about maybe myself or my field of study, or if I was taking all of it, or if I could apply it, or whatever, all the things that goes through all of our minds. And just like the older I get and the more I look at my career and my life and where it's going to continue to go, I'm like, it's just all going to make sense later. So that's my advice.
I'm just really glad I learned how to slow down, I think. Yeah.
You learned how to slow down in the music school? All right, all right.
Not slowing down in music.
Okay. Oh, man. Oh, I had something, and then I had to be funny. Yeah, I had to be funny. Actually, I mean, yeah, I already mentioned, do the college radio thing, but I like to just, look back at, what went really well and what I would like to add versus, what I didn't like and what I would change. Because my time here at IC was really wonderful. It was incredibly difficult the first year. Speaking of agoraphobia, very tough. So shout out to CAPS. CAPS, I think that's what they still call it, right? Yeah. Okay, just want to make sure. So yeah, I don't know, just having a little bit of trust in the process, for sure, because I really wanted to get it right. I was, the first person in my family to be in college. So I was like, I really got to get this right, or they're going to be mad at me. They weren't. They were super proud. And I'm sure that your folks or your friends and family are super proud of you too for being here. So don't be too hard on yourself.
Awesome. Yeah, you guys were so nice to your past selves. See, that wasn't too bad. I know it's hard though. Well, now I think would be the time where we would open the questions up to the audience. So I will be passing around this mic. If you could just shoot your hand up if you have a question for any of our panelists, I'll run this mic over. No worries if not, too. I got a couple more that I can. Oh, one in the front row. All righty.
I was curious. My name is Jackie. For music therapy, is it just one instrument, or what kind of instruments do you usually do? Or
Yeah, music therapists are asked to play. Usually, we're asked to pick a primary instrument, which is either guitar or piano. And that primary instrument is the one that we use in our classes, at school, usually, just because you're more comfortable playing that for whatever practices or activities we're getting into in school. Ideally, I think a music therapist, this is me personally, I think a music therapist should be flexible on as many instruments as they can. In my sessions, I'm constantly implicitly, usually not explicitly, being asked to play instruments in certain ways. And if I don't feel like I can do that, that's a problem for me. So sometimes I find myself saying, ooh, I wish I could play faster on a drum, things like that. And I'll go practice that drum. All that said, I know music therapists who don't play any instruments. They're singers and they're musicophiles. They just love listening and talking about music. So there's many different ways of practicing as a music therapist, and I hope that answers your question. Yeah, sure thing. Oh yeah. Heard that. I am happy to take any questions about music therapy. I think there's another room, right, that we're gonna. Yeah. I can take those in the one-on-one. Get really into there for sure. Yeah, awesome. And I can give my email out as well.
Thank you for coming today. My name's Mike. I'd be curious to a class or co-curricular activity or an internship, something you wish you would have done to give the underclassmen some advice, what you should have done, could have done, didn't take advantage of here at the college.
I hope that it's changed a little bit over the years, but in the music school, there wasn't necessarily an opportunity to have, internships in other countries. I would have loved to have taken the opportunity to live somewhere and study somewhere abroad. I did have the opportunity to study or do my student teaching placement in New York City, which was incredibly rare and very fun. And so I would have loved for myself and for my cohort to be able to explore other countries.
I wish I could have taken more writing classes. I just like writing, but I don't think I had time, to be honest. Yeah.
I don't know. That's a good one. I keep thinking, I'm like, the only thing is that I felt like I couldn't get into the music school over my humanities over here. It felt really hard to get into music, and I was telling Dan I'm actually doing music now, and it was a project I always wanted to do, and I wanted to explore it more here, and I was nervous, and I probably could have gotten in there and just should have like made a point of it and been more vocal about like, oh, get in there. I know they're cool over there. I want to get in there. Yeah, so I think just like advocating for it and not having boundaries between any of the different like schools and disciplines, and if you want to be in there, finding a way in.
Hey, I'm curious. It's really great to hear about sort of non-traditional paths. I'm curious on that note, were there any lessons that you learned in really surprising places at IC that you applied in ways that you never thought you would? As an example, I remember taking a painting class, and still to this day, there are problem-solving things that I apply in business that I never in a million years would have thought applied there. I'm curious if sort of on that non-traditional tip, if there are things that you discovered in classes that you're like, man, I never would have thought to take this or be interested in this, but it might be interesting to folks.
My senior year, I took, I can't remember the name of the course, but it was sort of like a gender and art history class. And so spending a lot of time looking at paintings and discussing things like the male gaze, which I had no idea was a thing until that class. And it really just started like creating some like neural pathways of like more connection between what we were doing in the music school and history and like written word and also visual art. And I think it was probably my like super highway into realizing that non-binary people existed. And so I was like, oh, cool. I think I'm that. So thank God that class exists. But it got me out of the music school. And so, I mean, for to impart some wisdom, if I have wisdom, get out of the main school that you are living in all the time.
I got to take Environmental Sentinels. It was another class. Yeah, there's a couple fifths for sure. What a class. You spend 4 hours a week. I hope it's still 4 hours. Nice, good. Out in the woods. So I got to hang out with my old professor, Mike Teitelbaum, yesterday, and we were reminiscing about when I would finish that class and run to Wayland, the music school, to get my trombone so I could play in the jazz band, and I would just smell like a bonfire and be covered in dirt. But I think for real, being in a natural space like that, being in New York City, a city punk in my youngest years, and having those kinds of experiences, I didn't get to play in dirt in the in the New York City subway system. I got my first dose of outdoors here at Ithaca, and that has certainly had a profound impact on the ways I think about mental health, the way I think about natural spaces, natural sounds. I work with clients who I notice only gravitate towards natural sounds. They cannot tolerate digital sounds or sounds that are just manufactured in a way that you wouldn't really hear in the natural world. I don't think I would notice that if I hadn't had those experiences banging rocks together and making cool sounds in the woods during Environmental Sentinels.
I went on after Ithaca to get my master's in a program called Visual and Critical Studies in San Francisco, which was in the California College of the Arts. And I think where that came from was here being able to be completely exploratory and it being trusted that if I could patchwork, it was all under writing, but philosophy and theory and creative writing, environmental studies, everything that kind of came under was because I just wanted to voraciously learn everything. And then I sought out a master's program that was equally as abstract and exploratory. Like people were like, what are you doing over there? I'm like, it's all gonna make sense later. But it was like a critical theory, queer and feminist theory, critical race theory, like this really kind of like heady material, but all about how do we look at optics, the way we see, and then the mediums by which we see things out in the world to understand personal and social transformation. So it's very kind of like heady academia. A lot of people were going to PhD afterwards, and I was like, no, I want to move this into social practice work. I want to get back in the community and apply all of this. So I think it was just the freedom of like seeing the value in a complete exploratory education and then seeking that out in more institutions that upheld that, provided space for it, and also saw it as like a viable career path. Yeah.
On that exploratory note, I I was going back through my Google Docs to see if I could find this, and I did, and I'm still regretting that, I think. I found a slideshow that I made for my final capstone class over in Wayland, which was the Music in the Outside Field course. So it was my first attempt at exploring music therapy. And I'm glad I spent 5 years not looking at this slideshow, because I think I would have been really hard on myself. It's like terrible. Like the information in there just doesn't make any sense. And I can't believe I wrote that. But I think that really goes to show when you're exploring, like, don't be too hard on yourself. You're learning stuff. And I'm glad I know what I know now and that I was willing to adjust and take the time to learn what I needed to.
Thank you. Well, I've got one last question just to close us out here. As we are about to move into a networking event that involves quite a bit of chit-chat, casual chit-chat, conversation, but conversation which can sometimes be scary to students. I know, Nikki, you mentioned agoraphobia. There's a lot of times in college where you enter a very new place, a very different place, a very busy place that maybe you're not used to, and that's something that you kind of have to adapt to for the rest of your life. Do you guys have any advice about sort of how to maybe get over some of the anxiousness, the nerves that can come with making connections, talking to new people? Anything that you find?
Yeah, networking is weird. Like, I think it's a strange forum. So I've done a couple of workshops on this because I'm so fascinated. Like, my personality type does well, but I'm like one of very few people that actually does well in those kinds of arenas. So I don't know if anybody's heard of the Enneagram, and I will go into a deep rabbit hole with you later if you want to go into that. Speaking of music therapy, Enneagram rabbit hole over in the next place. But what I often like to say is actually turning the awareness not on the person that may be feeling uncomfortable in the networking, but on each of us individually of like, how can we meet each other in that space so that it just feels like a relational, communal space where we're just interested in talking to each other. Versus, thinking about, oh gosh, am I going to be weird if I go up to that person and like make that connection? So I try to like work on myself of like, because I am comfortable, how can I like tone it back a little bit and just like build that bridge? So it's my role, as well as I feel like it's all of our role, to just think about how can we meet each other in a place of like genuinely, we're all going to go over there because we genuinely want to talk to each other or learn something else about each other. So we're starting from that premise. And if you're feeling nervous, I always just say, when I'm feeling nervous, I'll say like, I'm feeling nervous. And then I feel a little bit better once I've told people how I'm entering the conversation. And then we can just meet each other as nervous, weird people in a weird networking event, which is what that can feel like for many of us.
Nervous and weird. I like that. That's a good place to start. Jeez. Yeah, we're here to talk. We're here to support. I kind of assume that if you're here, you're considering a non-traditional career path or something like that. I imagine that's a confusing place if you're a student here, or not. Yeah, and I think anytime we're getting into a confusing topic, I'll just say for myself, I'd give myself grace. I will stumble through the words. I'm a music therapist, not a talk therapist. And I'm happy to stumble through the words with you. I think it's actually really important to be able to do that. In every professional world that I've had the opportunity to interact with, like there's a whole lexicon and a language, and sometimes, we have to just stumble through what we need to learn and figure out. Yeah, totally looking forward to talking to some of you in just a minute.
Anxiety is a real friend of mine. I know them well. They're also non-binary. I got a sort of, it stuck in my mind. It was like we were in some musical in high school, and this, she's a woman now, Sunny Altman. She looks at me and she's like, "You're so nervous." I'm like, "I'm so nervous." She goes, "Well, that just means that you care." And I like kind of hold that now forever. Like anytime I'm feeling like super nervous, like I was feeling nervous and my bus wasn't gonna come on time here. And I was like, why am I so nervous? Like it's ridiculous. Like, oh, it's because I actually care about showing up on time. Like that's who I am. And when you're networking, just think about like, okay, I'm feeling nervous because like I care about my future and I care about how I represent myself, and like that's okay. So be friends with your anxiety a little bit.
Yeah, I really appreciate you saying that. And I think this is more of a general reflection, an observation, a cultural thing. I think we tend to mock people who actually care about important things. And I think when I'm aware of that I'm like putting myself at risk for being mocked, it just helps me tolerate that a little bit more. So like, yeah. If you're trying to do something that you care about, sometimes it takes a lot of courage. And here for that too.
Awesome. Well, for the interest of time, I think that is going to conclude our panel event. Thank you so much, all of you, for coming, taking some time today. And a huge thank you to our panelists for taking some time to travel down here today. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to follow Career Corner on Instagram and Spotify to stay up to date with future releases. If you're interested in posing some more cozy career cues, or in checking out the Career Closet, Headshot Booth, and all the other cool resources available, feel free to stop by drop-in hours at the Center for Career Exploration and Development in Miller Faculty Center 101 from 11 to 2, Monday through Friday. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Career Corner Podcast.